a Catholic church, of course, is not unaware of the fact of how culture is important to the people.
Okay.
That is why the church will talk about
Sure,
enculturation.
sure, sure,
And
sure.
I also realize that you mentioned enculturation
Yes.
in that your research. But I want to know, from your own perspective, what do you think enculturation is? Because I read the article, you say that part of the reason why these youths have somehow an enthusiasm and tenacity to masquerade is because they are finding a parallel between enculturation and then
Yeah,
what they are doing.
yeah,
So
sure.
probably I get the impression that enculturation is, from your own perspective, is fanning the flame of young people going into these masquerade, pagan rituals and practices. So I would want to know, what is enculturation from your own perspective?
Enculturation, from my own perspective, is what is it in Christian theology? All right, it is dialogue, the Roman Catholic Church effort to dialogue with local culture. That is a kind of adaptation, seeing what is good in the culture and then incorporating it in your ways of worship or liturgy or whatever. That is enculturation. That is not the problem. The problem is that the youth misunderstand enculturation. That's what my research is trying to say. I'm not saying that enculturation is the problem. It's misunderstanding of enculturation is what is the problem. For example, when I used to go to Christ the King, over here sometimes the youth will come with ogene, you understand me? And then they will be beating even drums just to show in the euphoria of showing how Jesus is king. So somebody if a youth thinks that he's allowed to beat drum while doing Christ the King, what stops him from his own thinking, maybe from going out there and engaging in other traditional rituals? He sees a parallel, you understand what I'm saying? But he fails to understand that this one has nothing, I don't know how to put this, or should I say cultic in it, but the other one he's going to has something cultic in it. So this one is just enculturation. The other one has gone beyond enculturation. So my argument in that work is that misunderstanding of enculturation by this youth is the problem, not really enculturation.
I think that the church has to take catechesis more seriously among the youth. You know, this is a game of worldviews. It's a game of worldviews. The African worldview is very strong. Christianity has not managed to convert the African worldview. Christianity is busy converting individual Africans, but has not focused enough attention to the African worldview. Incidentally, you come to a village and 98% of the villagers have converted to Christianity. But when a particular case arises, the remaining 2% controls the village. When, for example, the masquerade is returning in the ritual days, the 2% will make sure that nobody comes out on that morning. The 98% is not able to change the way things happen. The 2% alone will influence the nature of things. Why is that? It is because the church is converting individuals without converting the culture that underpins the life of the individuals. So in the long run, the individuals fall back. The already converted individuals easily fall back to that culture again, because the culture underpins their life. The culture defines their life. The culture is like a fallback, where somebody falls back in certain critical moments. You resort to that.
What we call enculturation today is not enculturation. What we call enculturation today is what? Revival of what? Paganism worship. You should still remember that in 1982, when the Enugu Diocese have the first synod, Enugu Diocese Synod, there was a definition of what? Enculturation. Bishop NJ insisted that the criteria to look at enculturation is whether the culture that will be revived is intrinsically what? Good. That if it's intrinsically good, but the peripheral at the outside of it is not good, you change the outside and use the inside. But when a culture or something is intrinsically what? Evil, how do you revive it? So we need to have this knowledge and see the difference between enculturation and what? Neo-paganism. Many people are calling neo-paganism enculturation today in the church. So we need to re-educate ourselves, see a difference in between that every Christianity must be planted in the land where it is what? Where it came to evangelize. And it must evangelize the culture of the people. And if it doesn't evangelize the culture, it means we are still standing on the earth. Because every little thing that happens, they will go back to that what? Culture that is unevangelized. But if people, students, seminarians are exposed to these dangers from the training, they already know that these problems are there. And they already know that these are our stance about spiritism and spiritual things, and see what to do about them, and taught what to do. I'm telling you, until I become a priest, I never knew that it's possible for somebody to be a priest and be in cult. I never knew. Until I have some confessions who came on their own and said, this is what I was inside before I want to come out. I never knew that somebody could go home and do this type of idol worship thing and still remain a priest. Until I become a priest.
Did it in order to become a priest?
Part of them to become a priest because they are told that if you don't do it, you don't become a priest.
I think that one of the things we can do is for the church to pay more focus on converting the church, converting the African worldview, which includes the African culture and the African religious mentality. I'm not saying African religion, but African religious mentality. That's the worldview. And what the church has done over the time, in my own knowledge, is that the church has actually wished that that worldview will die, will fizzle away naturally. But it's not true. Nothing fizzles away naturally. No religious mentality dies naturally. No ideology dies. What ideologies do is metamorphose. Okay? And the church there are two things that the church did in the history of church in Igbo land, for example, that gives me impression that the church is just wishful thinking, wishing that the traditional system will fizzle away without any active way of handling it. Number one, you remember that in the 1900s, the missionaries produced what they called the Christian villages. There were three of them, one in Onitsha, one in Nsugbe, one in Aguilera, at the initial stage. That was in 1900. Their attempt was, all these new converts, let us take them and place them in a separate environment so that they will not be corrupted by the traditional religion of the people and their culture. So it was like, once somebody accepts Christianity, pull him from his family, pull him from his kindred, pull him from community, put him in the Christian village. So he will grow up, and so Christians will form a separate village from traditionalists in one Igbo land. Of course, it failed. Couldn't work. Then the next one, this one was done by indigenous Igbo theologians when they had already taken over from the missionary. Their own is what I call the theory of parallelism, where they made up their mind, instead of fighting to destroy the masquerade, let us create a Christian masquerade. Instead of fighting to destroy the traditional New Year festival, Shajoko, let us create a Thanksgiving in the church. And so what they were doing is to provide a parallel culture to Christianity, forgetting that the same people that go to church is living in the same compound with the same people that are in the traditional. So what you find now is that almost every aspect of Igbo culture is duplicated in the church. I think that these are false routes to converting Igbo culture. The best route which is not receiving a lot of attention in practice, is the root of enculturation. First of all, we call it cultural theology. Study the people's culture and evangelize that culture. And what does evangelization mean? Speak Christ to this culture. Allow this culture to feel Christ. Bishop Benedict says, when you do this, any part of that culture that is good, take it and practice it in the church without making it a duplicate. If you find out, for example, that the New Yam Festival is good, don't create a church New Yam Festival. Join in the traditional one because you have found that it's good. Secondly, any aspect of the culture that is dirty, clean it, take it. Don't create an alternative one. Thirdly, any aspect of the culture that is just too dirty and uncleanable, leave that one off. Don't even create a parallel one, leave it off completely. So if you do this, you find out that the church in Igbo land will actually be part of the culture of Igbo people. And the youth doesn't have to fall back on anything because there are no two parallels. If this one fails, I fall back to this. If this one fails, I fall back to this. When you manage to make the culture of the Igbo people come close, marry with the culture of the church, the Igbo man will not have two lifestyles to choose from. I want to suggest that the church should take catechesis of the youth seriously. As it is now, it is word of the mouth. Most parishes in Enugu, for example, especially Catholics, do not take the youth evangelism seriously. The only people I think that are even doing better in that area are the Pentecostals. They have strong focus on the youth and they have the modern systems of holding them. But Catholics tend to pay little attention to the youth and to kids. And yet, it is these kids and the youth that are the most impressionable people. So if you don't catch them young, when they grow up, you have Christians, Catholics that are weak in terms of ideology. So catechesis now means that the church should design a program that will help to inculcate the Christian ideology, the Christian worldview into the youth. Now, any youth that is well grounded on the Christian worldview, we immediately see that the Christian worldview is more defensible, more convincing than the traditional worldview. As it is now, many youths think that the African worldview is more practicable. But when you manage through catechesis to convince, educate, and make the youth to understand that the Christian worldview is actually more reasonable, he won't fall back to making charm anymore. It's not enough to tell the person you go to heaven or go to hell. It's not enough. Because people tend to be attracted by the thing that is hurting them right now. People are more interested in today and not tomorrow. It's only people who have managed to handle today that think about tomorrow. If somebody is hungry, for example, and you're telling the person to go and buy a share in the bank, he will be laughing at you because he has no food for afternoon. I tell him to use the money to go and buy shares that will grow in 10 years. People who buy shares are people who are comfortable. Basically, of course, somebody can become adventurous and buy shares even when he is hungry. And then we call it foresight. Yeah, it's true. But how many people have that kind of foresight? What is more natural is that people want to solve the immediate problem before thinking of the future. And so when you bring it in the context of religion, what you find out is that the youth thinks that it is solving my security problem now or my economic problem now that matters before you talk of heaven. But in the church, we jump the one that matters now and think of heaven. So what catechesis should do is catechism should just help the youth to understand that Christianity is not just about heaven. It's also about the earth. And they help the youth to understand how it works. Any youth that understands it may not go back to what we call neo-paganism or even pseudo-paganism.
In the context of my study, I went to a Reverend Father who I know is a very well-versed somebody in all this. He told me that part of the problem is that the church doesn't even have a well-organized mechanism to deal with this phenomenon. And I feel it's true. You are in the church, maybe you know better. So number one will be getting a good mechanism that will deter these youth from that. You understand? One day I was in a church together with my wife, and our parish priest was talking about this thing, and he said, what is it that you people find attractive in this Oriopa, for example? It's because you people support them. That's why they come out, because if they don't see you, you won't be there. I told my wife, this is not, for me, this is not what it should be. The question will be, what can we as church do to deter this youth from going there? So I feel that the church should fashion a well-organized mechanism, you understand me, that will help the youth to understand what, let me say, Roman Catholic faith is, what authentic Roman Catholic faith is, you understand me? So that at least they will be converted in their, they will be convinced in their heart that what they are going into is not right, or at least they will know where to draw a line between enculturation, you understand me, and religious syncretism. All right, I must say that so far, I don't think that the church has actually done that. So that, I think, should be the beginning point.
Well, the church, being the mother she has always been, is always very cautious about visions and prophecies and extraordinary manifestations. And so, whenever such thing occurs, I think the church normally goes into investigation to really find out whether the manifestation is genuine or not. Heeding St. Paul's advice to the Thessalonians that we need to test the spirits to see which one is genuine spirit and which one is not. The church has been doing it, and I encourage her to continue doing that. But in terms of parapsychology, I will also think that the church will give it, that area of study also, some attention, if it's possible. Give it some attention so that it will also help her to know which manifestation is natural, human, and which manifestation is fake.
I think that the church can reposition itself only when the church is aware, constantly and consistently aware of its own mission and of its being bound to Jesus. And that means, in effect, that the church, that the mission of the church is the mission to proclaim Jesus. The mission of the church is not to build gigantic projects. I think this is an aberration. Not that we do not need certain projects, okay? But I think we are leaving the message and doing something else. There has to be proper catechesis. And proper catechesis in this case means also that we have to engage the young people in dialogue. We have to be able to, we'll look at what I said about the prophecy, interpreting the signs of the times in the light of the gospel. We can only understand the signs of the times when we talk with these young children. We know what they think, what they feel, what their hopes and aspirations are, and then we'll be able to address these issues in the light of the gospel. And that means for us as representatives of the church that we have to go back to our theology. The time when we think that it is just enough to come celebrate Mass and make the people happy, I think that time is over. We have to go back to the content-related catechesis. I am glad that in some dioceses there are catechetical programs going on every year. Every year there is a theme that people talk about that is discussed in the dioceses. That is a welcome development. And I think we have to do more and more of that so as we'll be able to reach our young people where they are. And you know that today the young people, they move about more in the social media than elsewhere. We have to be present in the social media. But the thing is not just being present, the thing is about the message we have been entrusted to proclaim. And anything else, apart from proclaiming this message, anything else that is occupying our time and our efforts, we have to ask ourselves, what is our priority? The projects we have, the buildings, the things we are building, or to pass on this message in such a way that it takes flesh in the life of these young people, so that in the future they will find meaning, they find value in coming to the church, in celebrating the Eucharist. Otherwise, when we build all these things and there is nobody who comes to them, they become useless to us.
So we must change our attitude to seminarians and teachings in seminary. We must look at our catechesis. We must look at it very seriously and see what we do to these children that are baptized as infants, receive communion as infants, receive confirmation as what? Infant. And when they go to marriage course, it is haphazardly what? Done. We need to do something about it.
And one of the things we are trying to do at Trust is to revisit the efficacy of marriage communication in Africa.
Good.
And some people are saying that 3 months for marriage course is not even enough.
But are they even faithful to that 3 months? Many priests will sign the form and give to the person. Even going for training 1 day or 1 week. Say, Father, you know I don't have time. You don't have time. Say, okay, I understand. And he signs it. The person does not know anything about marriage. Not even common relevant impediment that priests should what? Teach. That's why there is rampant cases of what? Divorce everywhere. Because people don't even know these are the relevant impediment. These are things that could what? Stop this marriage. So there is need to go back to our catechesis. There is need to go back to seminary again formation. There is need for us to look at it. There is need for the culture to be what? Re-evangelized. There's need. There is need to separate the difference between consecration and what? Neo-paganism we're talking about now. And more importantly, syncretism is eating deep into the church. Somebody showed me something the other day and in a WhatsApp and said I should comment. I said, I'm not commenting anything. A priest who is coming inside the church to begin a liturgy, church liturgy, and when the person carried the incense out himself and sensing the church. Which liturgy is that? So, does the church accept such thing?
I saw the video and it was so strange.
Where did he get this knowledge? 2, I was sent to do something for a priest in Okada. I called him to come and do something for his children. He was having a deliverance issues. He said I should come and handle deliverance for them. I came and found out that the deliverance was basically based on oil. We told to buy 5 bottles of olive oil for your deliverance. And during the deliverance, they were pouring the oil on you, and the oil will be burning you, and you'll be shouting until the 5 bottles finishes, you fall down. Please decide how many bottles that will use on you. Is this Christian practice? Is this Christian practice? Why is it there in the church? All I know about oil is that Oil is used for anointing. And you don't anoint a demon. Do I anoint a demon? Look at this practice of mustard seed. Then somebody will bury somebody and pour mustard seed inside it. What for? Where do we get that? Look at this issue, not only of mustard seed, of salt. That the lay people are called to pray for your house. They tell you to bring 4 bags of salt. What's the connection of the salt and the demon that is being sent out? And pour the salt all over the compound. You see, syncretism is eating deep inside the church. And the church seems not to do what? To do much about it. There is also a need for the church to look at the gifts that priests and religious have before they get ordained. I know many priests who are virtually native doctors because from their family, that gift is there.
When they become priests, they
Of course they will. I know 2 in Anambra that give Mborogo na Mkpakoko. I know one at Soka that gives Mborogo na Mkpakoko. That is not something that's learned. It is a gift from the family. The gift is not bad in itself, but the source and what you do to retain that gift. Because if the gift must be there, there are things you do to keep the gift what? Going. And if you keep those things, do things to keep those gifts, that's why some pastors do some ceremonies of going to the gravesite, sleep 2 days, sleep 3 days, do that day, can keep an oil in the gravesite, give it to somebody to you pray for, go and do this type of ritual. Remember the one that said that that was going around. Remember the man that called himself Oduheje, and look at what he says every time. A big he turns a big onions, a big making cause. Can see that theology is really Christian theology. And I find also that some priests are using such what? Language of threat. Using such type of thing. Should a priest use that type? How many times did Jesus even threaten the Jews? With all the pressure that the Jewish community gave them, how many times did he threaten them?
In his continuous search for gold, Agone Chibe narrated about his dramatic shift to African traditional religion.
Very much interesting. As a matter of fact, I am the one that did Uzon Kobe of the Catholic Church.
That is that text.
That's CD and play that are playing today. Every Lent. I did it. Brando B says.
Serious.
Yes. And I had like 6 albums, gospel albums, under my name. They are all in the name of, trying to show my love for God. So at the end of the day, let me just move much ahead. I stopped going to church. You know why? I never had the fulfillment I was looking for. I was hungry. The only man that actually fed me a little bit was Bishop Buji.
Because he was into, and he is still into evangelization.
He fed me a little. I didn't have the opportunity to sit under him every now and then.
You hear his homilies?
Yes. But I'm sorry to say, a lot of priests in the Catholic Church are empty. They don't feed the Christians. They don't feed the parishioners very well. This is not about speaking grammar. It's not about reading Bible and translating the Bible in the same way. You must have to give. You must go outside the box to give. That is why the Christian world is suffering today. We have a lot of empty priests, all that do not live up to expectation, both in their real life and both in their speech. So I was still hungry in the Catholic Church, in the Pentecostal. When I got to Pentecostal, they said I should renew my baptism. And I asked them, why should I renew my baptism? They said the Catholic baptism is null and void. I said, why? They said it's not a mansion. I followed some of them to Independence Layout where they are doing baptism.
Yeah.
I said, okay, why this one now legit? They said it's a mansion. I said, why is it not in Jordan?
Yeah. Why
Since you want to do it like Jesus did it, then you should fly to Jordan now. They said, Brandis, you always argue. I said, no, I can never redo my baptism. Now, the point is that my baptismal name is Dominic, actually. Okay, sorry, was Dominic, because I've rejected the name. I will tell you why.
Because what I had is Nicholas.
No, it's Dominic. Dominic, then my confirmation name, Sebastian. Mm-hmm. So, I said to them, whether you like it or not, the church remains the Catholic Church. Even as a Pentecostal, they argued. I said, who tells you when Christmas will be? And who tells you when Easter will be? They started looking at me like, what are you trying to say? I said, okay, celebrate your own now. Let's see. You know, it's always easy to castigate a hero.
Yeah, very much easy.
Yeah. But I allowed the person and say, okay, you know, okay, this man they call hero, he is forming. That he can, well, now you go and form it. They won't do it. So I rejected the baptism. But when I was also in the Catholic Church, the charismatic leadership came up against me at a point and said, yes, I will tell you, that I'm fellowshipping with other Christians that are not Catholics. Then I had friends of amazing love, you know, and because I'm a musician, so we play together. I said, I don't understand. Excuse me, is this Jesus a company? Let me understand. Do you know, when they were doing the election of that Azude's leadership, it was actually that co-man that told me that there were a lot of petitions against me to move me away because I would Pentecostalize. Nah, Mama Saloiba, Pentecostalize. I said, I never knew. But I don't know. They said that, do you have your chaplet here? I was having my chaplet because I saw they have actually judged me. I said I didn't have it. So that they will do what they want to do. So the both parties, I experienced that rejection from both parties, which I saw, even as at that time, doesn't make sense to me. So now, I stopped going to church. You know why? I've been to Catholic, I was hungry. To Pentecostal, I was hungry.
With the feeling of rejection.
Yeah, not actually rejection. I knew I had a call. I knew I'm here to perform an assignment. And a lot of people have been telling me, open a ministry. I said, this is not a ministry. It's not about ministry. I can tell you today, I have people that serve me that are priests today. Like people I was their spiritual director. Reverend fathers and reverend sisters and nuns and monks today. And then a lot of people that also have ministry running today. They are no more in Catholic Church. They have turned their ministry into church. But I refused. But then a lot of people were afraid of me maybe opening a church. I said, I am not interested in opening a church. I am not interested.
If you would have done that.
Yeah, I would have, because I believe in an institution. I believe in a general umbrella. You know, who brought me into Christianity? Catholic. If I should open a ministry, I should open it under the Catholic Church, not becoming something else. So that's it. So I stopped going to church at a point. I started praying 2 hours, 30 minutes every day. I give it to myself. I must pray and I must worship, sing worship for 1 hour, pray in tongues for 1 hour, and then lay my request for 30 minutes every day. People that were living around me that time said I'm a pastor. I said, I'm not a pastor. I am nothing.
And then you stopped going to church.
I stopped going to church and pray 2 hours, 30 minutes every day. So my neighbors, people are saying he's a pastor. People who like to come and there and pray for. I said, no, Then, truly, I was seeking God. Looking for God. And the God I'm looking for is not in the building or in any religion or in any tradition, in whatever. I knew that if I say him, I will have peace. If I encounter him, or he or she, because nobody even knows the gender, I will have peace. So one fateful day, I was praying seriously, and I heard a voice, loud. The voice called me in the business. He says, "Go back to your tradition." I said, I sat down at that spot.
So it's loud enough for you to hear.
I'm telling you a story. I was praying with somebody that day, and the person was like, "Why do you sit down?" I said, I heard something. The person said, "I heard something too." I said, "What did you hear?" The person told me what the voice said. I said, "What?" That means he said, "Proof." If the person can hear it.
Oh, the person had it.
Yes. From that spot, I picked up my phone and called my elder sister and said, "I am no more a Christian." She said it's a lie. That's how I became a traditionalist. Not because of hardship, not because of money, not because of whoever preaches whatever. I am not in any way against anybody. I followed the call. So the moment I accepted it, within 5 days, not 5 days, the next morning, Brother Anthony, is it Anthony? Brother Anthony, the kind of peace I had from that day to today, I never had it in the Christian family. What to me? I have what is called uncommon peace, rest of mind. In the midst of nothing, you are happy. In the midst of lack, you see future. In the midst of hopelessness, you see hope. It's the only peace that can give you guarantee that you will stay in a place where there's not, like in Nigeria. You know, Nigeria is as ugly as one man called Obi. If you put his J in your own. Are you getting me now?
Were you able to recognize the voice?
Yes. Yes, because that's not the first time I heard the voice.
You've been hearing that?
Yes, not always. I've heard the voice twice. That was the third time. That voice comes to me like a thunder. That voice shakes around everywhere I stay. And I said to myself, I know myself, Father. I know how I pray. I know my level in prayer. So if a devil will come into this prayer and speak to me, I will believe the devil. That's it.
He claimed he had a voice clearly during one of his deep prayer sections that told him to go back to his traditions. This is where our dialogue got interesting, because that is for him a greatest sign. He believed that he was holy, he was prayerful, and so that supernatural voice was fitting enough to give him the direction he needs. For him, it was the voice of the absolute divine. No need for discernment.
If I on a light now here, maybe if you stay here till night and I on a light, on my and put on a light, no darkness will interfere with the light.
Sure.
Am I right? Good. And the best thing that will happen to any man is man knowing thyself. You will know when you are full of the Holy Spirit. Therefore, if I'm in heaven and somebody come there and they say it's a demon, I will believe it's a demon. And if I'm praying at the level I operate, and a voice came and somebody tells me it's a demon, that demon is right. I don't listen.
You don't want to discern?
No. If the demon is allowed to come and speak, that means God approved him.
Well, probably, can't you say this way that God wants you to have that bit of discernment to be able to know, okay, I'm not like...
No, go ahead, feel free.
If you like hearing a voice, yes, that's okay. It's an experience. It happens. It can happen to anybody. It has happened to anybody. People have their various experiences. You know, even within the history of the Catholic Church, there are people, even saints, even saints, people who are holy. There are people who have had voices, who have even seen visions. At the point, they were able to discern. that okay, this one is this one is this. They were able to discern, but because of they had humility, they want to listen to the voice of God. They want to obey God. There is that people. I'm talking about people who are holy. So they were able to discern. Okay, this voice is coming from this. This voice is coming from this. So what I know from what I've studied is people who are people who are seeking God, people who wants to know God. They used to have these experiences.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like you said.
Yeah.
They will hear voices. Some even will see visions. Some even will, there are some particular extraordinary experiences that comes to them.
Yeah.
But there are people who have somebody like St. John of the Cross. You should have heard about him. Somebody like St. Teresa of these are people who are holy, who are gifted. They have voices. Okay, they have good voices coming from God. They've also had voices coming from the other side. So, because of how they were able to approach. Initially, they may not have that discernment to, distinguish which one is which. But at the point, because they are humble, they want to know God, that young still persists. At the point, they were able to make that such distinctions.
I believe that people who sincerely seek God with all their whole heart do have some experiences that could be described as extraordinary. It may not always be so. In the history of the church, the lives of saints are replete with experiences that could be described as extraordinary, supernatural. In fact, a historical glance at the phenomenon of prophecy in the lives of the saints reveals a very thin line between illusion and genuine prophecy. And this is a part of which John of the Cross and St. Teresa of Avila, who are experts in Christian mysticism, warned us against. I believe that the gift of the Spirit still works within the church. I do not doubt that. The gift of the Spirit is still with the church. But at the same time, as much as I believe in the possibility of prophecy and other supernatural encounters, supernatural experiences, one can experience of God, I stand with the church that there is a necessity for discernment of any claim of revelations, of any claim of supernatural experiences of encounter. And that discernment is not just the task of reason alone or faith alone. There should be an interplay between faith and reason in such clarification, and which spells out, on one hand, the conviction of holding fast to God, who cannot deceive with his revelations, and on the other hand, the clarification, rational clarification of the seemingly object of revelations. And so that discernment is done with the spirit of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 19 to 21, which says, "Do not quench the spirit, do not despise the gift of prophecy. Text everything holding fast to what is good."
Like I said that judgment of everything I do today is my conscience. Now, do I have peace? No man that is doing evil, I will say he or she.
Sure.
So in the moment you are thinking of
peace is one of the fruits of the Holy Spirit.
That's it. So when I heard the voice, I didn't have peace at that point. So in the morning, I woke up with peace. I said, is this real? Let me tell you, it wasn't easy for me to answer this call I answered today. I'm a well-known person, Christian-wise. But because of the peace, what fuels me today is peace and nothing else. Each day I wake up and search for that peace. If I have it, I continue. And that is why today, in what I do today, I don't do charm. I don't do. In fact, somebody came to me and said,
I was about to ask you what's,
how. Somebody came and said, you are almost like the same church people. I said, I'm sorry, I'm not church people. Let everybody hear it. But what is church people? If you say you are God people, I will accept. Don't say church. Because I have come to understand that Christians does not they don't monopolize God. They don't monopolize God. Not even the Islams, not even the traditional people. Nobody will say he or she bottled God. No.
Like an object to be
God
used.
has people everywhere. Fake people everywhere. Evil people everywhere. Good people everywhere. So now, if I look at the peace I have in my mind, I know I am going still in the right direction. There are some things I want to do, even now as a traditionalist. I will lose my peace. I'll tell the person, I won't do that. I won't do that. Now, my anchor is the word, the Holy Spirit, which is Awo. Yeah. And in deep Igbo tradition, Awo indeed is a pure spirit. You know, people will say, oh yeah, they are trying to blackmail Awo. You know, people try to blackmail Satan. Satan is the most blackmailed in the world.
And people would do something that
And they say it's Satan. Ebenebe sinya kana na mma. Ya kana no no na eso mma. Ase na ebenebe egbuo. Kata ihe na so kata. Ya na eso mma na bia. Ka eso eje ogu. Ya na hai ebenebe egbugbu enu. Ebenebe egbugbu enu. Ya se oye gbuzuru.
I will advise the youth to start looking at the bigger picture. Life is a big picture. Life is not, a book is not just one page. A book is the whole pages. So you don't read one page. Many youths seem to be looking at a small picture of life. When they say that when we reach the bridge, we know how to cross it. That's a very bad philosophy. So if the youth learn to look at a larger picture means anything you want to do, look at it not just from the point of view of the immediate gain, but also look at it from the overall consequences, both the gain and the merit and the demerit. Then when they look at it, for example, you find out that they will find out that going to make charm always has a negative side effect. And the youth doesn't usually know it because they are too much focused on the merit, that it will make me to resist bullet gun. Okay, so but if a charm, if a spiritual force can save you from a bullet wound, then ask questions. You will discover that it has a negative aspect.
Father, please wait. There is something I want to tell you. I went to a native doctor to seek for solution because of the condition of my son.
full package before you venture into it. Many of them who just dabble into it regret at the end. Unfortunately, now by the time you realize you can't go back, you have stepped in fully, sometimes with your 2 legs. You can't go back anymore. It's just like some of these youths let me give you a very common example. When these youths enter into the university, the first years, so there is this barrage of cult groups, appealing to them. Some actually offend them and seek them to come. Some try to foist the group on them, coerce them into coming into their groups. Now, what happens to most of the young men is that they think of protection. If you don't belong to any cult now, then you will never be free in this university. Your fellow boys will be insulting and humiliating you. Then they want to enter. But if anybody managed to tell the young new fresher in school that if you enter into the cult now, that all through your life, you will remain a cultist and you keep paying even when you don't want to belong there anymore. Even when you have decided you are through in school, they'll keep hurting you, and if you fail any of their principles, you could be killed. If you manage to tell the youth that it doesn't just end in the university campus, he will have a rethink. He begins to wonder if he likes to have that kind of life. Okay? But those who actually come to them, simply tell them about the here and now advantage. Think also of those who are going abroad. Even sometimes they don't even know anywhere, but they sell everything, tell all the lies, package, and they put their foot. Some of them want to cross the Atlantic Ocean with their legs. They think that immediately you cross into Europe or Asia, then you will begin to carry cartons of dollars kept. If somebody came to the young people at that time and tried to explain them what those who are in Europe are suffering, they will find out that some of those in Europe are supported by people who are in Nigeria. Some of them might change their mind. So my point is that most of the youth don't even look to the larger picture. They just see the immediate gain and they dabble into the thing. So I would like to suggest that the youths should start looking at a larger picture, even in religious areas, because eventually we are human beings. We are not made of flesh alone. We are made of flesh and soul or spirit.
To practice Christianity, practice it. I know that the Christian faith, just as Paul said, is not all about eating and drinking. It doesn't come easy, that's the fact, whether we like it or not. It comes with challenges. Jesus never promised us a challenge-free life. You understand? For sure, you are going to face challenge. Like you said now about youth going into deviation when they have problem of securities of life or insecurities of life. So I think that the youth should also know that practicing Christianity is not easy. It comes with a lot of challenges. So if you think that you are a Christian, it's good that you stick to your Christian practice. Stick to what the church teaches you. I'm not saying, don't be offended, I'm not saying that whatever the church teaches should be swallowed whole line sinker without critical examination. No. But at least we know that the church teaches us what we know that at least can help our faith. So in that regard, I wouldn't see reason why people will now revert to that. But it also goes back to what we have been saying. The church also has to do something. Because if you are seeing your children going the other way, you don't fold your hands. You must try to do something to recall them back. But this is a problem. Even sometimes in this St. Peter's, I think four Sundays ago, this St. Peter's chaplain here, the priest was lamenting about this whole thing. I said, oh, thank God you have also noticed this. So it's a big problem, whether we like it or not. And it doesn't have the cause of Christian faith in Igbo land or in Enugu State or the whole Nigeria. So that's all I have to say on that.
You see, our youth are torn between hope and hopelessness. The despair in our country is simply enormous. On the one side, you see young people who are rich, who are enormously rich. And people wonder, how did they make it? You see your classmate, a few years later, he's swimming in money. And you begin to wonder, what did I do wrong? So, there is a shift in the value system we have. I believe that our priority today in our society is how to get money and get it quick, even if it means by fraudulent means. I think we have to rethink some of these values. The value of honesty, the value of hard work, the value of patience. That is very, very important. People are no longer patient. People want everything here and now. You see, we have got to learn how to do things step by step. And that also means that we have to realize that not everybody would have to swim in money. Not everybody will have to build mansions. Not everybody would have to ride the best of cars. I think our young people should be able to understand that sometimes it is enough if at the end of the day you're able to have something on your table. You're able to feed your children, you're able to take care of your wife or your husband, you're able to pay their school fees, you're able to pay your rent, or if God permits, you're able to build your own house. And I think when we rethink our values, it might help us to begin to rebuild a society in which people do not go to do things that are bad, that are wrong in order to get money, but people concentrate on doing the right things in the right ways.
The ultimate end of religion is the other world, but the ultimate end of magic is this worldly. That's why Jesus tells us that you don't be afraid. Somebody can kill you. Don't be afraid of anybody who can kill your body, but can do nothing to your soul. So physically, the criminal, the bandit can kill you, but he cannot do anything to your soul. Why? Why did Christ say that? Because the emphasis in religion is not physical things. It's ultimately. So if the criminal can stop your soul from entering into heaven, then that is when you have to be afraid of the criminal. But of course, he can't do that. So people come to Christianity and they expect magic. And it is wrong. And in fact, for me, that is exactly another aspect of the prevalence of neo-paganism, as you called it. Now, not even perpetrated by the youths, but perpetrated by the priests. Because it's actually the priests that are driving neo-paganism right now in Igbo land. Because it is the priests that are carrying Christianity in such a way that the youth are now seeing it as magic center. In fact, it's the youth, it's the priests those priests involved in this that are making the youth to see Christianity as a magic wand. So when they come to church, they expect magic. They call it miracle. But nobody expects miracle every day. But when you expect it every day, then you're actually talking of magic. It's the priests that make the people believe that when you have exam, don't read, bring your pen, let me bless it. And then you bless your pen and you get AA in exam. That's magic. It's the priest who makes the people think when you are looking for a husband, go and do novena. Go and say some psalms. Don't change. They don't tell them about changing your lifestyle. They don't tell them about presenting yourself. They just tell roll out a number of psalms to pray. And the youth will be saying the prayers in view of getting husband. Then the youth is coming to Christian church as a fallback to magic. It is the priests, those who are involved now in this kind of prayers, that are actually expanding magic among the youth, not even traditional religion. Because those that are actually going to traditional religion are going there not to worship that religion, but to do magic. And there are few of them. But the main, where you have the greater number, are people who are inside the church and are looking at the church as a magic center, where you just go, you don't need to read your book, you pass your exam. Where you just go, you don't need to write any application, your name will enter into the list of those to be employed. And it will be regarded as miracle. Where you just go, you just do some novena and you get what you want. And they don't emphasize hard work. And they don't emphasize human elements, human contribution. They just emphasize, just come here and lie down. If you go behind my house now, you will see a Pentecostal group there. From Monday to Sunday every day, they are praying. Now tell me what the person is looking for. Are you looking for a shop? Are you looking for money to grow your business? How can you be growing your business in the prayer center? So it is the priests and the pastors, the Christian priests and Christian pastors, who are actually expanding the influence of magic by making the youth to start looking at Christianity as a magic center. The priests, I'll tell the priests to go back and do things the way the church wants to be done. Of course, we keep praying that we have welfare. But the church, St. James said that faith without good work is dead. I expect the priests to, while you are praying for them, teach them also to do the necessary things. St. Ignatius of Loyola says 2 wings that can keep a Christian flying. One is hard work, one is prayer. And in the traditional monastic spirituality, they call it orare et laborare. In fact, in those days, part of the early crisis was that some monks said is orare est laborare. That means to pray is to work. But soon, because the Spirit guides the church, the Spirit always makes the good reasoning to triumph in the church, in spite of other ideologies that may seem to have sway. But eventually, in the long run, the right ideology always seems to overcome. So later now, the church settled with orare et laborare. That is to say, walk and pray. Not walk, not pray as walk. Okay? So that, but what is happening now is that all those priests are resorting to that abandoned ideology of orare est laborare. But I am asking them to return to what the church believes, orare et laborare. In other words, work hard as if success depends on you, then pray hard as if success depends on God. With these two wings, one makes it. Even in Igbo mentality, particularly the Igbo mentality, the idea of Ikenga, which articulates the Igbo man's spirit of success, the power of the hand with which man cuts his way through, has a dual element. One element is the effort that the man is making. The other element is his chi that gives him luck. And the Igbo man doesn't emphasize only the chi. They can say that in one aspect, if you succeed, they say that your God has blessed you. Chi emete. Okay, but they also know no nyekwe chi ekwezie. In other words, if you want your God to bless you, work hard, and if you work hard, your God will conquer. Your God cannot bless you when you have not worked hard. That's what the Igbo man is thinking. But you have changed all that, and it is the Christian priests and pastors that are forcing the youth to accept an easy world. And when they can't find that easy world in the Christianity, they go elsewhere, thinking they can find it there. So the whole work lies in Christian priests to change to understand the correct worldview and teach the youth the correct thing.
I therefore appeal to our Christian people, particularly the young ones. Don't give up on God. Do not allow the difficulties or challenges of life to make you return into evil ways and entangle yourselves in spiritual bondage. God is larger than our problems. If we ever think that God cannot solve our problems, trust me, nobody else can do it.
Though the fig tree does not blossom, nor there be fruits on the vines, the yield of the olive tree fails, and the cultivated field do not yield food. The flock of goats from the animal pen, and there is no cattle in the stall. Yet I will rejoice in Yahweh. I will exult in the God of my salvation. Yahweh, my God, is my strength. He makes me feel like the deer. He causes me to walk on the high places.
Hello?
Hi, George. The management has instructed me to recall you.
Seriously?
Yes, you are taking up a new higher position as a supervisor.
Hey. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mama!
I think we should know that our commitment to God and our belief in Him do not in any way remove us from the world in its limitations or in any way absolve us from its problems, okay? Or consequently guarantee a life free of challenges and free of problems. No. One thing to do is not to deny or run away from the crisis, but to accept crisis as real and perhaps a necessary step in one's life of faith, and to share it in trust with someone who is in position to listen and help. That is the primary work of pastors of souls in our parishes. It helps also to realize that faith is never a finished product that one can once and for all grasp, possess and keep. Faith cannot be stored up somewhere like a jewelry, undisturbed, safe, unreachable, and untouchable by forces of evil. Faith is always open to text, and indeed, it is by undergoing continuous text, sometimes severe text, that faith grows, deepens, ripens, and matures. It never stops growing, deepening, ripening, and maturing. It is never free from challenges. This text or crisis of faith makes this cycle of faith life possible, and it can come in manifold forms and with different intensities, illness, insoluble problems and difficulties, as well as things not nourishing faith. Taking it for granted or through an attitude of indifference lies victim of escapism. Christian existence is not a life of comfort. Making the commitment of faith is risking one's life. But then it is very important for us to know that God is silent. He speaks to us in silence. The silence of God is not his absence, but his very presence.